And one of the questions, or three of the questions that I always have my students wrestle with, are the questions that are as equally applicable to the Red Scare as perhaps they are today. The first one: what is the proper balance between civil liberties and national security? At what point in time does dissension from the government cross the line into disloyalty and sedition? And perhaps the most important of them all, is it ever proper to break or bend the Constitution in order to save it? Now, what was evident to the people of the time of the Red Scare was evident to this British journalist. That for some reason, the American people in 1919 had sort of lost their bearings and were fearing these creeping Bolshevik monsters underneath their beds. Now, what is interesting here is this is not unique in American history. That from time to time, when the American people are afraid, they go a bit nuts. And that can be caused because of fear of social, political, and economic change. It can be bring on fear because of enemies foreign, but oftentimes it's brought around by fears of enemy domestic. And so when we examine the history of Homeland Security, we see a pendulum. Throughout American history, when the American people start to get scared, that pendulum between protection of civil rights starts to shift towards the protection of security. What is interesting here is it's almost like going on a bender. So everybody is drunk because they're afraid, and you easily shift that pendulum towards security. And when you do it, you willingly stomp all over civil and constitutional rights. But what inevitably happens in American history is we wake up the next morning with a tremendous hangover. And like many drunks who have experienced that, we always vow, once we sober up, we're never going to go on a bender like that again. We will always protect liberty in the future.